things. One is talk right into that thing, and the other is we can call you in a minute. Or just if you want to just chill and do the weather stuff. We'll give you a big introduction. There'll be music.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. It's a top shelf production, man.
Nice.
You're not messing around. Right, sure. Yeah, walk. You have a favorite? Metallica, Sandman?
Yeah. I know
That's pretty good.
Y'all play, I guess because of the station. That Honda music's always playing before.
Yeah.
Coming up on today's show, SpaceX grounded. We called COVID correctly. Stanley Cup odds have been released. And maybe more importantly, City Manager Jesus Garza joins us all coming up on today's Wade and Carter Show.
Oh, that was good. That was just solid radio right there. You kidding me?
It's all downhill from here.
Wow. Hello, YouTubers. Stay close.
Howdy, YouTube.
Does this shirt make me look fat?
Hey, good morning.
Good morning to you,
How
sir.
are you this morning?
I am very well. I'm excited. Excited. It's a big show today. Excited to be here.
Huge show. Really big show.
Really big show. Big show with Jesus Garza.
So before we do that, let's do this.
Wade and Carter weather for Victoria shows it to be 72 degrees and clear skies in Victoria, but it's going to cloud up with a chance of rain this afternoon, heading to a high of 91-ish. Ash says 92. It'll probably feel like it. It's going to be humid.
Nah, I bet you'll feel more like 102.
But you know, tonight's supposed to be down to the high 50s. Supposed to be really cool tonight.
Really?
Overnight, yes.
I did not see that.
So there'll probably be some dew on your car.
Might be.
What's going on?
Well, a little bit of thunder ditties last night, so
Astronauts resting safely aboard the International Space Station after a no-frills flight. Easy, SpaceX. No?
No, didn't happen.
Okay.
Weather issues.
Yeah, I was told that they told us, so it's not like I got some special insight, but they told us that the potential bailout zone, they get to a certain area, and if the rocket's not at the right angle, they can abort the mission. And that what?
Nothing.
That sound like a NASA term?
That's what she said.
Right. So abort the mission. They abort the mission, and you have to have, at that altitude, you've got to have a bailout zone. And the weather in the bailout zone where the astronauts would be expected to land was not conducive. So that's what they're telling us.
They're going to try it again today? Do you know? I didn't
No, I think it'll be Saturday.
Okay.
I think Saturday is the day.
Michael Jolly checking in. Good morning to you, Lisa Poole.
Judge Posey, good morning, sir.
Margaret Mickish, David Glass, Christina Wise, C.W. Bean, Scott Snow.
We have the enlightened, there's Sheriff A.J. Louderback. We have the enlightened audience. We have the thinking man's audience, and we have the thinking man's city manager in studio today. We're excited to have Jesus here in a few minutes.
We're huge in Hondo, Texas this morning.
Big in Hondo. We're big in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. For some reason lately, Seattle, Washington. It's a hotbed. It's like COVID. We spread in the Pacific Northwest.
Like a virus.
Just like a virus.
Bobby Leister, good morning to you. He says we've dropped a subscriber on YouTube. We're down to 60. How does that happen?
Who bothers to go unsubscribe?
I don't know. We must have ticked somebody off yesterday. I don't even know. I don't know how we could have.
If we were a virus, we would be like in Beverly Hills Cop. We'd be herpes simplex 10 with Victor Maitland. Remember that? Yes. I'm looking for Victor Maitland.
Oh, Lord.
Oh,
it's a movie I haven't seen for a lot of years.
80s reference before Jesus was born.
That's right.
Wow. Unbelievable.
I was watching some clips of Coming to America yesterday.
You know, so something that we can't ask him on the air, but that I do want to understand at some point. You know, his wife is highly educated and a marriage counselor. That dude's never right. Like, if he's right, then she's like, why do you have these bullying tendencies? Why are you bullying me with the facts? And if he's wrong, then she's like, are you always this incorrect? It's got to be a tough deal at his house. I mean, here he runs the city, has a lot of authority.
And no say in his house.
A lot of responsibility. And then at home, I'm not saying he doesn't have, he might have a lot of say, but he's wrong. And I feel it gives me an instant bond with him because I'm always wrong as well. Dawn has told me.
Secret to a happy marriage.
Right. I mean, I'm always wrong. He's giving me the stink eye, but I think I'm onto something.
Might be.
I think
He's
I'm
kind of
honest.
nodding.
Kind of like, yeah, you got me on that one.
Chris Conrad says, anyone else thinking Danger Zone or singing Danger Zone with Bailout Zone replacing?
Highway
Chorus?
to the bailout zone.
Maybe so. Toya Stone checking in. Will Jost, good morning.
Toya Stone, thinking
Austin
about
Brinkman.
Daniel all the time. Hello, Norm Burgess. We're big outside of Dallas, Texas, the Frisco.
Don't you mean David?
Is it David? No, I've been praying for the wrong kid.
Yeah.
No,
apparently.
you're right. It is David.
So Stanley Cup odds have been released now that they've approved a 2014 format. Vegas and Boston plus 550. So that means you win 550 if you bet $100.
Okay.
So,
I mean, who's going to bet on a hockey with a bunch of guys that haven't played?
well, they're going to get 3 weeks. Yeah. I think you're going to get people betting just because they can actually bet on something
Right.
again. Boy, this has either done two things for gamblers.
Cured him?
Cured them, or they're betting on whether or not the grass
Raindrops,
grows
yeah.
an inch this week.
Which drop's going to run down the window first?
Yeah, exactly.
Of course, you'll notice, and no humor here, we do post, at least during this period of time, every morning we post the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. If you're ever having thoughts of harming yourself or anyone else, pick up the phone and dial that at 800-273-8255.
So Vegas, Boston, Tampa Bay, Washington, St. Louis, the defending champs at plus 800.
Tom Brady
Colorado,
playing a little hockey.
yeah. The Flyers, Dallas at plus 1,500, right there with the Pittsburgh Penguins.
So no chance for them, right?
Not really. Calgary Flames at plus 3,000, right behind the Edmonton Oilers. That's not good.
What's Mike Madonna now? Like 65?
Yeah, somewhere in there. Still
What do you
looks
want
like
from
he's
the guy?
20.
Right? He's always handsome.
Winnipeg, Vancouver. My Rangers are in there, sort of a long
What's their
shot,
number, the Rangers number?
plus 7,500.
What does that
Down at the
mean?
bottom. That means their odds are long. Bet 100, you win 7,500.
Oh.
Yeah.
Why don't you just throw a hundo out there? Put your money where your loyalty is.
I'd be better off just lighting it on fire. It'd probably be more almost, what's the word I'm looking for? I'd probably get more out of it just watching it burn.
The
just to
good
say I've
news
done
is
it.
if you did it with Canadian money, it would only cost you like
Like
$22.50.
$20,
Yeah. That'd be good.
Although the black, because there's a lot of plastic in the Canadian dollar, so it'd probably be bad for the environment. Montreal and Chicago, the worst odds to win the Stanley Cup in this revamp format, plus 10,000. So that might be the bet to play.
Yeah. Why not, right?
Throw a hundo down, win 10 grand. Yeah,
Well,
there you go. Those
you
are the
could
long odds
almost-
to win.
you can almost throw 100 down on the top 5. And if 3, 4, or 5 were to win,
Yeah.
you'd more than cover your bet.
I'm getting to think that climate change folks and environmentalists are just never happy anymore. Remember a few weeks back, they were kind of celebrating that,
Pictures of LA.
LA was
Pictures of-
smog free and COVID was going to be good for the environment. Well, there's a report this morning, CNN saying that the economic fallout of the crisis has caused a historic slump in global energy investment. And that could threaten climate goals in the longer term, according to a new report by the International Energy
Are they
Agency.
talking about like alternative energy?
I
Like
guess, but
that people aren't putting money into batteries and things like
Yeah.
that.
I guess they're never happy.
They're like farmers, never gonna be happy.
Speaking of being happy, Disney World planning to reopen in July.
Can't wait.
No, that's a good thing.
The only time you see men smile at Disney World is the moment they get there and the day they know they're leaving. After you've been in Disney World for a day or two, you're just going nuts. If Jesus built Disney World here in Victoria, I wouldn't go after the ribbon cutting.
That would be it.
That's it. I'd go. I'd go for the ribbon cutting, do the photo op, and then I'd be out of there.
I haven't been. Went to Disneyland as a kid.
Yeah, that's out in California.
Didn't have any money to take the kids to Disney World when they were growing up.
Right. Our best Disney World story is Torrin Bale saw second baseman. Help me out.
Biggio?
No.
Altuve.
Yeah, Jose Altuve at the Disney World this year. And they wouldn't let him ride one of the rides because he was too short, but he stole the sign. So we got that. That's it. That's all we got. That's all the humor.
That's
This
all
is a
you
very
got.
serious,
Yeah.
news-oriented program. It's not about humor.
No. So did you catch Dr. Fauci on CNN yesterday basically telling everybody masks are pretty much just symbolic? They might do a little bit of good, but they're more symbolic than anything, letting people know that you're trying to do the right thing.
I always wondered, they say that the mask is not to protect you from others, it's to protect others from you.
When you sneeze or cough
I
or
get
spittle
that, but
or speak moistly.
yeah, Trudeau. But the thing to do, it seems to me, is what we've always been taught to do by our grandmothers. You wash your hands, don't get right up on top of people. It makes sense. Hug your family. You know, that's who you hug, the people that you're closest to. It's like
Yep.
being in a Baptist church. No, you kids get apart
Yep.
there, get apart.
Numbers starting to come out that 40% of the COVID death toll in nursing homes. Maybe
Yeah.
a little bit higher because Michigan won't release their numbers. New York's numbers might be a
New
little
York's numbers are
suppressed.
going to go up because Cuomo sends everybody to the nursing home.
Yeah.
That guy, you know, when you put the light on him, like at first, it's like he looked like a rising star. And then just after a couple of weeks, they were like, nah, he ain't going to cut it.
Now, remember the talk? They were hoping that he would be
The guy,
Biden's running mate
and then
or
take
somehow
over.
swoop in. And now they're like, yep, no, they can't social distance themselves fast enough from Governor Cuomo now.
Do you think that we are going to see some fireworks between now and November where Biden will choose a running mate and then something will happen and that person, like, for example, I'm making this up, but let's say that he chooses Elizabeth Warren just to keep it plausible. And then he
Native American and a female.
absolutely. And he loses his mind, which we know that he's done, but they admit it. And then she gets Michelle Obama to be her running mate. Is there enough buzz there? Can she do that? Could that happen? I don't know. Where's Bernie Sanders in all of this? Does Bernie say, hello, I'm over here. I still want to be president.
He's probably staying home, making sure he doesn't get COVID.
Yeah, Schwarzenegger. Yeah, it's, okay.
Schwarzenegger meets Bernie.
Rich Little is off. No, hey, I can't get through my nose enough to talk. Bernie Sanders, can't do it.
No, that was a little bit better.
Ah.
That was a little bit better.
My Trump's getting great reviews though. Super duper. It's a super duper missile. Love her. Love Dr. Birx. Love your scarf today, ma'am.
But
yeah,
I don't know. I don't like to toot our own horn, but we from the get-go told people, wash your hands, be mindful of each other's, practice good health.
If you're age compromised,
let's protect those who are most at risk. And then we find out, 40% of the deaths are.
Torrin Bell says the best ride at Disney World is the ride home. Told you.
Yeah.
Told you when you went. What did Warren say?
Warren says he had people buy every single line in all the cronies feed.
Yep.
We are the sheeple.
Well, let's take a
that.
break.
Yeah, let's take a
don't
quick
waste
break
any time. We have an opportunity to spend some time with Jesus Garza, Victoria's city manager. He's I don't know, celebrating. He's been here a year. We'll see if he's celebrating or how things are going for him when we get him in here. Today's a great day for Allen's Wrecker Service. If you end up in a bind, at least you have Allen's to bail you out. 578-6300. That's the number to call. 578-6300. Allen's Wrecker Service.
I had them ready to go yesterday on my drive home. Only in Victoria or around Victoria will you see this.
Was it the streets?
2 German Shepherds and a miniature horse slowing traffic down on Northside Drive.
What were they doing?
Running around.
The horse
creating
was running
havoc.
with the dogs like it was.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly. The dogs were a little bit ahead of the horse, but then it was not good.
Maybe the horse had had enough.
Maybe so, but thankfully didn't have to call Allen's. But if you need to, 578-6300 is the number to call.
VCS Companies, Rocket Oilfield Services, and the only locally owned and authorized AT&T retailer, all on Kerr Boulevard, just inside the loop off Main Street. The Hartman family will take care of everything from your basic cell phone needs all the way to surround sound in your home theater. surveillance, fire suppression, fire detection. If you need a security system for your business or home, the VCS Companies is the place to reach out to. Do it and do it soon. SCT Building Systems, 564-8864.
It's the number for Clayton and Casey Help. Give them a call for any building project that you have, from maybe something small, you need a shop in the backyard, to a barn dominium, a home. You've got some land, you want a cabin, you want a weekend getaway, they can build it all for you.
Another young Victoria couple building a business here that needs your support and supports our format. And then, of course, Chestnut Furniture Company, who doesn't need us. They've been here 100 years.
Yeah, they got along pretty well without us.
They support the format, and we appreciate Bobby Leon and his family, his dad, his granddad. They've been in their current location, their new location, for 70 years, folks. 116 West Juan Lynn, the corner of Juan Lynn and Bridge. Get down and see Bobby Leon and the family there at Chestnut. You just do better at Chestnut.
Their birthday gift to you, 50% off all furniture.
Chestnut and Love make your house a home.
So let's bring our city manager in, Jesus Garza. We'll get you right there on the mic.
We're a very high-tech organization. I'm going to walk behind you at a social distance, and I'm going to turn and give you some FaceTime on that iPad. Hang on.
So welcome. You got to speak right into that microphone. That's the only caveat that we have. And you can hold it if you have to. It won't make any noise on the air. But welcome to the Wade and Carter Show. Appreciate you coming by.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
We're glad you're here.
Thank you. By the way, my wife just sent me a text. She said you're projecting and that she's happy to have you over and give you a discount.
You're projecting. See? I'm transferring my angst, my own insecurities, my own inadequacies onto you to see the response that I give. You're probably right.
Probably.
Let me know.
I need
We'll set it up. Save me your discount.
Super quid pro quo. Be good to us on the radio, and you can have a discount. No, I met her once. I think last year, maybe at Boot Fest, and super nice. Y'all are a very handsome couple, and honestly, very pleased to have you in Victoria. We were very excited when you took the position, and it injected some optimism into Ash and I. We talked about it often. Well,
I think the community as well.
It's exciting.
I've got a bit of a softball for you to get going, but that kind of what Brent said leads me into another question.
I didn't think I'd get it.
Yeah,
well, you sent us that list of questions that you wanted us to ask, and then we reviewed them and we tried to ease them up. Some of them were a little too tough.
Got it.
So
did you get the Spanish one?
We did. We keep them. Just.
Yeah. I got the ones in Swahili too, so
right. Yeah.
We're covered. Those are the tough ones.
There's some tough questions. The ones in Latin.
Yeah. So, how's your first year been?
Sure. Well, it's been a very busy year, right? There's been a lot of curveballs thrown our way, and that's just the nature of the business. And so one of the things that's very important for any city manager is to be nimble and be flexible and be able to adjust as things hit, right? And for us, there's been a lot of things that have maybe shifted original plans, ranging from people retiring unexpectedly and a lot of turnover with executive positions to COVID-19. And then, of course, there's just always other things that pop up that necessitate, specific attention from staff and resources. But at the end of the day, I feel it's been a very good year just learning about the organization, the community. I think I agree with you that I think a lot of people are feeling optimistic just about, the ability to have conversations about how to improve our community. And, we want to have an open dialogue about it, even if we don't always agree.
Yeah.
There has to be conversation, because without it, you're never going to get anywhere.
And I think that's probably one of the biggest things is I've seen that with you. You've been open, you've been out, you've been willing to discuss and hear what people have to say. And I don't know that was always the case.
Got it.
I know you don't want to say anything, but
well, I don't know, right?
I know. Yeah. What's the biggest curveball? You said there, curveball. What was the biggest curveball you faced this year?
I think COVID-19 obviously is the biggest one, and that's the silver lining in that is that it really gave us a sense of the resiliency of our employees and being able to adapt and continue to offer the services that we offer. And I've been talking about becoming a more 21st century organization with technology from day one, and we had made some investments in that before COVID. That thankfully, if we we did, because if we hadn't, it would have made getting through COVID much harder.
City
But-
council meetings on Zoom and such.
Well, yeah, just, for instance, even just in the city manager suite, we went through a small remodel of it and incorporated, a conference room with a TV monitor, a camera, I didn't even really have a working projector in my entire suite. And so in essence, as the CEO of the organization, you expect to have certain technology to be able to.
Not amenities, just tools.
Right, tools to be able to, conduct efficient meetings, productive meetings, et cetera, et cetera. And so thankfully, because of that, we were able to easily transition to Zoom and things of that sort.
So I'm going to pick up, Ash has a list of questions too, but I'm going to pick up as I see things.
Yeah, 'cause
Torn Bales.
our listenership does provide
And they're
pretty good
very
questions
smart.
and feedback. And
Torn
that's-
Bales says, hey, good morning and happy anniversary. Hey, Susie says, is there anything our city can do with buildings downtown that remain empty without any attempt to sell or lease? And I know where he's going with that. There are some older buildings downtown that sit on the tax rolls at extremely low values that are unrealistic. And because the guy can write a check for $1,500 for the year, he just sits on it. Now, if the building was listed closer to its real value, he'd go, what do you mean the taxes are $12,000? I either got to rent it, sell it, or renovate it. I think that proper taxation, proper valuation of downtown buildings would be one of the main push prods to stimulate growth and development downtown.
Sure.
People would have to do something with it.
Right, agreed. First, I'll say Disney World is an awesome place.
Okay. Well, you're young. You're very young.
I went for the first time last year.
Did they mistake you for Jose Altuve? Because you kind of look
He's
a
a
little
lot
like him.
taller. And he's thinner.
For whatever reason, I've gotten Sergio Garcia. They offered, but I don't see it.
No.
Just go with it.
In any case, maybe what made the trip to Disney World a good one is that I was on a wheelchair because I had fractured my tibia. And so I was in a cast. And so when you're in a wheelchair, it makes it a little bit.
You get to go to the front of the line. Yeah. Who was pushing you around?
That's it.
It
was an electric scooter.
Oh, okay.
Then he gets up and gets on the ride.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Puts the cast back on when he sits down.
That's right. But downtown, I think downtown has the biggest potential. I agree with you on looking at valuations. We're actually going through an exercise right now. We hired a company called Redundity, and what they do is they come in and do financial assessments and compare your revenue per acre versus your expense per acre in terms of property valuations, property taxes, and that's a really good exercise because it gives you a sense of where there is disparity with that valuation, right? Because as you all know, we have nothing to do with valuation of property, right, at the city, and so we want to better understand the types of properties that are valued high, the types of properties that are valued low, and I think when we approach it from an angle of financial sustainability, it might open the door to have conversations about what we do about it, right? Because we all know that folks in our community can be a little bit hesitant to government involvement and
the taxation is theft comments
we're
are coming
getting
up
on
here.
that. Taxation is theft.
Influence, on what happens. But I think at the end of the day, we're a business and we're dependent on our revenue just like any business, and so we need to understand are there any issues with that revenue stream. And so this study will help us get a better sense of that. Specific to downtown, at the end of the day, we can't force, a property owner to sell or rent or whatever, right?
This isn't New York.
But hopefully we do enough to provide an environment to where it makes it feasible for somebody to go in and maybe purchase a building. And, a lot of what I've been asked over the last several months related to downtown is how do you level the playing field, right? Because if a business wants to come into town or expand or whatever, and they're looking at a property downtown, potentially that building could be overpriced. The cost of renovation is going to be significantly higher than if they go from the ground up. And so how do you level the playing field, right? What can we do to where at least the decision is not a financial one, where it would cost maybe at minimum the same to build from the ground up on the north side than it would to renovate a building downtown. And there are a lot of things that can be done. Cities do it all the time. In Kingsville, we had a very specific downtown facade grant program that helped with that. We had a very specific tax abatement guideline program for downtown. And so there are very specific intentional things that cities do to level that playing field that we just need to kind of look more into.
The only time that I ever had an issue with that, because I was all for it, and I loved it. I've always said that if you have If you show me a city with a vibrant downtown area, I'll show you a city that's pulled together, because there's no reason for everything to be downtown. The town has grown north, but if you have a romantic, if you will, a commitment to a downtown area that's vibrant and bustling, I'll show you a city that's committed to itself. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. I remember visiting with former Mayor Paul Pulasic, who next to Mr. Apocalypse is like the most can't-do guy I've ever known. And Paul Pulasic said to me, how do you justify? He didn't say he was against it, but he posed this question to me. How do you justify taking tax dollars from all over the city, from people that have businesses that they're building on the north side of town, and giving their tax dollars in the form of abatement or grants or whatever to a downtown area to then compete with those very people that you took their money and gave it to people to compete with them downtown? And I was like, I just think that when you see these towns, when Victoria and Ash is going to get into this in a minute, with tourism and birding and river sports, and we're at a crossroads and all the qualities that Victoria possesses, none of the cities that are like us, or whether it be San Marcos, Fredericksburg, New Braunfels, Kerrville, they all have quaint, enjoyable public spaces downtown. I always hesitate to go back to San Antonio, which I know you're extremely familiar with, because it's a different dynamic. It's a much bigger city. But I don't know, and I'm not even sure there's a question there. I'm just having a conversation with you. And but I want you to give me your thoughts.
Sure. Well, I think the question that former Mayor Pulasic brought up, I think it's a valid one. But at the end of the day, we do that every day, right? Every day we make investments, whether it's, the splash pad. The splash pad goes in a certain part of town versus the other, right? We fix a street in one part of town versus the other. And so every single day we're making decisions where one could, if they really wanted to, make the argument that we're taking tax dollars from one area and investing in another, right? And so, and downtown is no different, right? And so we shouldn't necessarily treat it any different, right? When we add a splash pad on the north side, it's because it makes sense, because, well, there's a need there, right? When we fix a street on one side of town, it's because there's a need there, right? And so we're going to now look at investing more in downtown. Well, there's a need there, right? And so I don't think it's any different than anything else that we do every day. It's just a matter of prioritization, right? And kind of where it sits with council, of course. And we know from day one, me coming in, that downtown is a priority. I agree with you in that some of the list of cities that you brought up to compare us to, because one of the things that I have come across is that I think sometimes people compare us to the wrong communities when it comes to our downtown. I often hear about Cuero, or hear about, Bernie, or, some of these Fredericksburgs, some of these very small communities where it's just night and day.
Yeah.
And I think oftentimes people like to think that Victoria is a nice or a small community, and we're not. And so we're never going to have a downtown like Cuero, right? Because unlike Cuero, we have plenty of other places where people can go shopping and eating, right? Versus in some of these smaller towns, that's the only area we have.
Right? The new mall out by Nordheim.
And so for us, we really have big city problems, right? We have big city problems because we have a downtown that is not.
It's been abandoned, basically.
It's not a 24/7 downtown, right? And so the solution to our downtown is, how do you get it to be more 24/7? And there are communities all over the place that have that. Even if they don't have downtowns, they're recreating that. I just happened to be in
Sugarland. Sugarland recreated a downtown.
Right. I mean, Sugarland said, we don't have a downtown, but we want that space, right? So they built it, right? And so, and if you think about what they included in that, for it to be successful, they included a hotel, small convention space,
city hall,
lofts, shopping, bars, et cetera.
What is their tax base?
Sugarland.
Where are they getting all their money? I mean, it seems like all that's out there is houses. They must have a ridiculously high ad valorem tax. I mean, I don't understand what they do in Sugarland.
To drive into Houston to work.
I don't understand what they're doing to make all the money.
Y'all have been there, but you see it. It's busy, right? Because I think people by nature want to be around people. And so when you create the environment for that to occur, it happens organically.
That leads you to one about the park.
Yeah. But one thing about downtown here, everybody talks about De Leon Plaza and there. I see the issues there because you've got two banks, you've got a courthouse on one side, there's really nowhere to build around De Leon Plaza. And I think we end up more like Galveston, and a street becomes the focal point, maybe with De Leon Plaza at the end of it. So to me, that might be Constitution or one of the others down there. But that might be
really a cool
that might be the way to go with it, where De Leon Plaza could still be part of it. But I don't know that we could build around De Leon Plaza because there isn't the infrastructure around there. There aren't the storefronts sitting there abandoned like there are in a lot of other cities that have built around their courthouse squares. We don't have that infrastructure.
The reality is that our downtown is much larger than just a square.
Yeah,
right?
no, it really is.
And so we're hopefully in the fall going to be starting a downtown master plan to hopefully address some of these questions. But the reality is that downtown has the potential to be a much larger footprint, right? I mean, if we look at, for instance, the old convent right across the street from City Hall, there was a feasibility study that was done in conjunction with the Texas Historical Commission that suggests that that'd be a really good, nice boutique hotel and meeting space and things of that sort. And so that's sort of on that side of town, right? But if you continue going down towards, let's say, Rio Grande, you have the library, and that's where you start getting into vacant property, right?
There's lots behind there,
right? Or underutilized property, because one of the big things that other communities ask themselves is, what's the highest and best use for that property, right? And cities have, torn stuff down, created super blocks. I mean, cities have done some pretty transformational things to really get things flowing. And I think we need to start thinking in that lens. Let's think transformational. Let's think big picture. I'm a proponent of having a hotel presence downtown because I think any downtown that's thriving has that. That helps create that 24/7 atmosphere because you have people staying there overnight that might be looking for a bar or a place to eat in the evening. I'm a big proponent that if we ever go back to having a conversation about a convention center of sorts, that we have it in the context of downtown. Because again, when you go visit these places that have more thriving downtowns, they all have basic elements in common. Hotels, convention center, right? Residences, right? People live there. And we need to start thinking in that lens.
Ash and I had a great synergy. We visit a lot more off the air than we do on the air. And the idea, so where Mitchell School is, that whole block over there that by any standard, VISD deemed it dilapidated. It was going to cost $600,000 to bring it up to code, and they decided they didn't want to do that. We had the idea that we could really put our money where our mouth is and have VISD at a very nominal rate sell that property to UHV, who could then build with some abatements from the city, some angle parking or maybe closing off a street. Could build some.
Well, they wouldn't need abatements because they don't pay taxes anyway.
Well, there you go. They need something though. Some kind of. We got to get the city involved in it somehow with money, and we'll get to how y'all spend money in a minute. But we would get UHV to build. Married? Did you bring a suitcase? Married student housing and
grad housing type of thing.
And for grad student housing, adult housing, not a frat house. Build that there, and now you've got low cost, low expense housing for folks associated with the university, 1.5 miles from the university, who inject maybe 100 bodies into downtown Victoria, creating demand. Now they need a convenience store. Now they need some things that are there. There's great coffee shops there. There's great restaurants there. Now there's people to feed into those restaurants by this partnership between UHV and VISD that I know the city would support. Hey, let's get that going. But I agree with you that I don't know where you would put an event center downtown, but because in my mind, I always see like something big enough to hold sports, or concerts.
Yeah.
I think an issue with that downtown is the ingress and egress right now, the way downtown is. The streets are narrow, a lot of small blocks.
So just stay down there. Stay in the hotel.
But how are the streets different than the streets in San Antonio or Austin?
They're not.
In terms of width and things like that. And so, it's really not an issue, in my opinion.
I agree. We could have Hotel Emma at the convent.
That's right. Yeah, no joke.
It works.
One of my ACMs, Mike 18, who came from San Antonio, he specifically actually has even reached out to the developers that were involved with Emma, see if they'd be interested in coming.
That's brilliant.
Somewhere.
Problem that I see with that facility is parking, but I mean, we could resolve that. If you're going to put $8 million into that building, that's a low number probably. If you're going to do that, you could certainly buy a lot and bulldoze something and put in.
Does the lack of an airport and reliable commercial service, though, hinder any sort of viable convention
Right.
revenue and business in
I
Victoria?
think to a certain extent, yes. I think it depends the types of conventions that we're going after. And so typically what happens is that we would probably hire a consultant to come in and do some sort of feasibility study to say, what type of conventions realistically could our community host? And from there say, okay, you need a facility that fits, I don't know, 300 people, has X amount of square footage of exhibition space, et cetera, et cetera. And then kind of work that way, right?
Yeah, we're not talking Amway conventions and
Right,
such.
yeah,
in Victoria.
we're not talking, the GOP convention,
Yeah.
Or anything.
Let's take a 10-second break
Okay.
here, and then I want to talk to you about the concept of being more than just words, the crossroads. We want to talk about that in just a second. Today's a great day to get out to Veracruz, folks. Veracruz restaurant is open. They're serving their full menu. You can pick it up curbside. You can go in. You can go inside and pick it up. You can pay for it over the phone.
They'll deliver.
They will deliver. You will. You'll be glad you went to Veracruz. I would order the enchilada casserole. Keep it for a couple of days. It's
It's
fantastic.
kind of like a soup. It gets better the
It
next
does
day
get
because
better
all those
leftover.
flavors come together.
576-6015. That's the people to reach out to. John Paul Hull, our buddy at Razor IT Solutions.
He can make all your computers, all your data make sense, talk to each other, get it all working seamlessly so that your business can thrive and make it more effortlessly and make it look like you actually know.
Absolutely.
He'll make you look like you know what you're doing.
He can help you with all your analytics, who's hitting your website, who's trying to hack into your website, help you set up a pay button if you need to collect funds over the internet, coordinate that with your Facebook presence, all of those things he can help you build.
Your HR and your billing software, all that stuff can all work together seamlessly.
The Atzenhofer dealership, since 1926, Victoria's dealer. Whether you want a new Cadillac, Mazda, Mitsubishi, Chevrolet, reach out to them also for all your used car demands,
Service.
all makes and models, and they have a paint and body shop that's the best in town, period. Our buddies BJ and Scott Nelson.
White Trash Services, 550-1826. Trash service in Victoria County and 5 surrounding counties, a 6-county service region, growing all the time. They've got great deals, roll-offs, dumpsters, weekly trash collection. They can handle all your trash collection needs.
Hey, Jesus, they're just another locally owned, family-owned, small business that gives back to the community. White Trash Services jumped in. They jumped in with 3 trucks and a yellow notepad, and they have grown exponentially because when you call them at 550-1826, you get a person on the phone.
You do.
It's
You don't.
easy to do.
You don't get a phone tree and push this number now. You get people to talk to, and they will answer your questions and address all your trash collection needs. Have a trash-tastic day.
So back to the idea of Victoria being the crossroads. It's cliche. It's been said to us for so long. I mean, it's where are you from, Victoria? Oh, you're from the crossroads. Well, and I used to say as a kid growing up when I couldn't wait to get out of here, we're in the middle of everything, but we're close to nothing. Well, and as I've gotten older and as I've driven some and realized that Austin's a hassle to get around, Houston's way too crowded. Victoria's nice. I can stick my toe in the water in Corpus in an hour and a half. I can be at an Astros game in 2 hours in my seat. I can be on the Riverwalk after checking into the hotel in 2 hours from my living room. I can be in Austin if I need to do business in an hour and 45 minutes. I can be on a plane in 2 hours from my house out of Austin or Houston or San Antonio or Corpus, which all have international airports. I look at Victoria. It really hit me between the eyes about 2 years ago. I had a guy come in, and I'm in the insurance business. He came in. He was a rep. He wanted to talk about some products they had. And afterwards, I said, well, hey, the afternoon's free. You want to go play golf or do something? He goes, oh, no, if it's okay. He goes, I want to get down to Riverside Park. And I said, really? Oh, why? What are you going to do down there? He said, I'm a bird watcher. And it struck me as odd because it's big, you think bird watcher, maybe nerd watcher. Maybe it's not fair, but that's what big strapping guy. And he goes, no, there's a certain kind of warbler that only travels through North America at this time of year. And everybody says that you've got a really good chance to spot it at Riverside Park. And my brain just said, if this guy is from Dallas and he knows, hey, while you're there, you got to take him to bird watching. Seems to me that our Chamber of Commerce ought to be promoting bird watching. I mean, because that is purely disposable income hobby.
CVB, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
somebody. I mean, it's a yes, and which leads us to the need.
Yeah.
But I think that bird watching, river sports. I mean,
Well, it seems this city has kind of run away from the river and Riverside Park. Other cities have embraced it. Other cities don't worry about the 500-year flood, the 100-year flood. They deal with it when and if it comes. But Victoria's had a real aversion to, I think, making Riverside Park we talk about it being a crown jewel. It hasn't become the crown jewel that it could be. What are your thoughts on Riverside Park? I know you've got a new parks director on board, but
I'm going to get chased by the angry ducks. That's what somebody.
Gotta love the ducks.
The ducks are tough, man.
I agree with you that Riverside Park's an asset, and I do think that bird watching is an aspect of tourism that oftentimes gets overlooked. I mean, I can tell you from my own experience growing up in Brownsville that bird watching is a big deal in the valley. I can tell you from my experience in Kingsville that one of the biggest reasons why people visit the King Ranch is for bird watching, and there are literally people who travel from all over the world for that. And so it is a real thing, and it does necessitate a special focus, if you will, on that, which hopefully our CVB can continue growing and doing a better job at. One of the things to note as it relates to CVB is that the city hasn't really been involved with CVB for a long time. Chamber of Commerce used to do it. Roughly 10 years ago, the city took that operation over. But even at that, there really wasn't a full-time sort of dedication towards it. O.C. Garza, our former communications director, was also the tourism director. And so I identified pretty early on that, we really want to be great at both how we communicate with the public and then separately tourism. They really need two different leaders for that, because it really is two different approaches, right? How you communicate with your locals about what's going on is different about how you do marketing to encourage people to come visit.
See, I love to hear you call it marketing.
Two completely different worlds, right?
Yeah.
And so now we're structured that way, and so hopefully over time we become a little bit better at that. We are currently also, with the help of our new parks director, going to be starting a parks master planning effort. I don't think that our community has gone through the type of parks master plan that I envision us going through, because it will take, for instance, Riverside Park and maybe a few other neighborhood parks, and actually conceptualize what those parks could look like if we completely revamp them and actually we're intentional with their development.
Well, there's always been an aversion to developing Riverside Park. That's always been a bad term.
It's
here.
not a national park.
I wouldn't word it the way that you word it. I think it's just an issue of funding priorities. I think it's one of the challenges is just education, right? Does everybody who needs to be educated truly understand the value that having a more robust Riverside Park has? Maybe not, right? And so,
I've served on the Parks Commission for years.
Somebody coming from the outside, for me, it's important to give everybody the benefit of the doubt that, the reason why we haven't fixed that or addressed that is not because, we're completely ignoring it, but maybe people just don't know the value that it brings, right? And I think the fact that I'm, city manager that has come from the outside in almost 40 years, I can just bring a different perspective on, this is the value that investing in downtown brings. This is the value that investing in Riverside Park brings. One of the goals with all these master plans that we envision going through over the next year or two is that there will be an opportunity in 3 or 4 years for the city to make some transformational investments in parks, in streets, and whatever, because of debt capacity that's going to be freeing up at that time. And so I want to make sure that we're as prepared as possible for that conversation, because one of the I guess approaches that I certainly don't subscribe to is this winging it concept, right?
Right. Yeah.
Because I think nothing productive comes of that, right? We need to be intentional with what we invest in. We need to be intentional with how things get developed. I think Victoria has great assets in the park. The zoo is a perfect example, right? I think that's an underappreciated asset. If you look big picture, think of the communities that have zoos in South Texas, right? It's Brownsville, Houston, San Antonio, Victoria. That's it.
Yeah.
And so, and the name Texas Zoo, right? And so for us to not have more folks invested and interested in investing in the zoo boggles my mind, because it's one of the assets that we have that truly sets us apart from many communities across the state. And so why aren't we kind of leveraging that, right?
See, with the Texas Zoo, especially as long as they're still in the park, they could become the bird watchers headquarters also and sell the bird watching books and all those things to get, that could be where you could go to use, you could use them as an arm to promote the birding. I think that there's been an aversion may be too strong a term. There hasn't been a focus put on revenue generating sources in the park itself.
Or near the park.
The park should be free for everybody. I get that. I don't want to charge you $10 to go into the park, but
there's a lot of space up above the bluff that I think could be utilized to really put focus on getting close to the park and then eventually into the park.
Right.
Well, I just
agree. And I think the master planning exercise will help us kind of address some of those things. The other thing we need to think about too is how we place amenities, right? One of the first things that came up when I arrived was, folks wanting a dog park, and there was a site within the park that had been identified for a dog park that, in my opinion, is not a great site because it's not close to anything, right? And if you visit some of these more planned out parks, everything is built around a trail so that it's easy to park in one place, and you can walk to the dog park, you can walk, there's exercise equipment, you can walk to the playground, you can walk this, versus the concept in Riverside Park currently is you almost have to jump in your car, to go from one amenity to another amenity. And it's not really pedestrian friendly in that way.
Well, that's Victoria. You've just summed up Victoria.
That is Victoria.
Right. And that's why I go to intentional because, in terms of amenities or offerings that Victoria has, if we can't change the past, but if, 15, 20 years ago, we could have been intentional with some of these things that happen, whether it's the expansion of the Children's Museum, the Performing Arts Center, these things that truly are amenities to our communities, if we would have been intentional about creating a museum cluster downtown, having a Performing Arts Center somewhere downtown, or at least close to where there's hotels and food establishments, you could kind of get more steam around these things. And so I agree with you that, one just needs to look at the placement of some of our amenities to tell that, we could be more intentional with where we place these things.
I like the way you're thinking about the future and going forward. And a lot of the kids are asking, what's the deal with the duck pond? How hard can it be? Get in there, weed eat, let's put some water and get the ducks back over there.
Well, you're welcome to come in and weed eat.
You know what? I'm tempted to go in there, spray a little honcho, and then we come in there and clean it out.
Right. Well, so last year, this was before I arrived, so I hope I get this right. But my understanding is that the city drained it in order to address a few issues, clean it out, et cetera, et cetera.
Now it's got little trees.
But what they realized when they drained it was that the sidewalks around it were not supported. They were literally kind of floating. They were being held out by tree roots. I mean, it made it very difficult to just, fill it back up and open it up again. Right?
It's kind of like pulling drywall off an old house. Then you find out the problems you have structurally, right?
So
then the issue came, oh snap, we've got a structural issue with the duck pond. Now this is going to, increase the cost for it significantly. And so that's what's kind of delayed the duck pond from coming back. Now we have, since that time frame, we've hired a landscape architect to design a new revamped duck pond. That conceptual design has gone to council. They've approved the conceptual design, and currently we're in the design process for the revamped duck pond. We anticipate applying for a Texas Parks and Wildlife grant in the fall.
Awesome.
To help fund it, because we do envision the improvement costing over $1 million, and so that's not
the $1 million duck pond. See, that's when people start going, wow, priorities.
Right. And that's why
that's tough, but at the same time.
And that's why we want to pursue grant opportunities to help us accomplish it, because we recognize that, if we straight up just try and fund it ourselves, it's going to be a harder conversation when we have so many other needs. And obviously, when you're able to do it through a grant mechanism, it makes it a little bit easier to have.
I only have two things for him before you hit him with all your hard questions.
Okay.
One is, and I don't know why it's become a peeve, mostly because I drive by it every day. It's become a symbol to me of the perception of apathy sometimes on the part of the city. And I know you enough to know that you take that stuff personally. Don't. It was way before you were here. The water station at the corner of Ben Jordan Airline is always trashy looking. There's no other way to really say it. There's always limbs in the yard. The grass gets mowed like every third week. There's oak trees that encroach onto Airline that have the little sucker limbs coming out into the street. There's a part of me that says, and I know that it's not fair because you have limited crews and limited hours and all that, but you would love for that, which is a glaring symbol of government in Victoria. You'd love for that to be, if not landscaped, at least really neat. It's got those late 60s, early 70s railroad timbers that used to be flower beds. I remember when it was beautiful. The church across the street always had a motivational message on a triangular thing that turned. Well, it sits still now. The convenience store across the street had a car drive through it last week. And then there's the city property. I would love for us to make a commitment to our city properties. You know, the firemen do a good job. I see them often doing their own stuff. You know, I'd love to see that property and the city's properties really spruced up, just aesthetically. That's just a personal, you know.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. You know, I think there are opportunities for beautification not only at that site, but if you just drive around and look at where we have lift stations, where we have, you know, water well sites, you know, I mean, there's more that we can do to spruce up, you know, some of these sites, but it takes money, right?
Right. Well, we wanted to give to committees, to youth groups, high schools. You know, you need service hours.
Right.
We want,
Yeah.
but I realize that's
Well,
it's long term. It's just.
Well, and to that end, you know, we recently, the city revived Keep Victoria Beautiful. You know, one of the struggles and challenges that I think our community has, and I hope through the new optimism and this new energy, that people feel a certain sense of pride and to want to get involved.
Yes,
right?
sir.
Because we can't do it ourselves,
No.
right? And if you look back to, you know, part of the rationale why the city got more involved with Main Street was because it was dependent on volunteers, right? And so that created inconsistency with the level of attention that Main Street was getting. Keep Victoria Beautiful, same thing. It was dependent on volunteers, and eventually it just completely faded, right? And so when I arrived and really found out that Keep Victoria Beautiful didn't really exist, to be honest with you, I was like, this is unacceptable, right? I mean, this is the mechanism that exists for people to get involved, whether it's youth groups or whomever. And so we're trying to revive that. But we can't do it alone, and people need to get involved, right?
Feel free to use us for that. If you're calling for volunteers or meetings, or just reach out and because we have a bunch of people that would love to be involved. They would
So
help.
I think through those partnerships, you know, I think we could definitely improve some of those. But it necessitates money, and even if it's simply the money for the supplies, and you get volunteers to plant things and fix things, I mean,
There's still a cost, yeah.
Right, it still takes some cost, and it still takes an intentional effort from somebody trying to plan it out and figure it out. And so, you know, when you've got, you know, one of my challenges overall is just the organizational structure, because, you know, over the years, the motto has been, you know, do more with less every year, do more with less every year. And so at that point, you know, what capacity do our employees truly have, you know,
Correct.
to think about, you know, beautification, think about transformational ideas when they're so busy, you know, they've got, you know, they're behind 300 work orders, you know, because there's just a backlog of.
Let's take our final break and then let's get into city employees. There's
Yeah.
a couple questions there that I think are important to be asked and answered.
Today's a perfect day to go to Uncle Mutt's Barbecue for lunch or dinner or both. You can call Jonathan Arterberry. Katina's listening to the show right now. They'd love to feed your family, whether you want brisket, ribs, sausage, chicken, all the side dishes. Uncle Mutt's rice is famous all over the planet. Green beans, my favorite is their pea salad. It shows sometimes around my middle, but I highly recommend Uncle Mutt's Barbecue today. Lunch, dinner, take it home. They package it so well, you don't end up with grease or sauce or anything all over your car.
Or in your fridge.
You get it home and you just reseal the tin and use it again. It's ideal. Gray Barn Design, reach out to Cheryl. I had a conversation via email with your lovely bride yesterday.
Nice.
920-6803.
Planning your funeral, huh?
She's planning my funeral. I said, I think maybe black would be a good color. I don't know. I want lots of tears. And then, of course, a keg in the
Tears
corner.
of joy.
Tears of joy, and then some cookies. That's all I care about. Covered dish, you know,
Covered dish cookies.
Potluck lunch. 920-6803. That's Cheryl at Gray Barn Design. She will make your next party memorable. And then Went Generators. Went has now got the entire gamut from the standalone either propane gas or natural gas diesel generator by Generac, a trusted name in generators. They also have solar panels and battery backups to basically make you self-sufficient in the event that there's an emergency that takes the power out. It's a fascinating thing. The generators automatically test themselves. They're always ready to go. And we highly recommend.
Almost pretty much maintenance free. Generac's a good brand, and they were out this morning. I passed a couple of Went trucks
Yes.
on the way in this morning, so they were out early and getting after it. So give Went a call for all your generator questions. And with storm season upon us, if you've been thinking about it, now's the time to probably get it done.
So Ash and I knew just enough to be dangerous, just enough to be able to opine in ignorance on the radio about the. We ended up doing the People Fund. The other one was the
Lift Fund.
Lift
Yeah.
Fund. We weren't big proponents, mostly because we took the holier than thou position that government shouldn't be involved in in private business. We don't want the government in our banks, that kind of deal. Mostly to stir conversation. That's the role we took. I had a long visit with Mayor McCoy and basically could not disagree that, hey, we've got to do something, even if it's symbolic, even if it's just to stimulate emotions. We've got to do something to get our economy kicking again. And that's fine. I can set that aside. I do think the default rate is going to be quite high, but that's okay. What it brought back to me is one of my other pet peeves. Many conversations with J.J. Craig, many conversations with Sheriff O'Connor, where I just saw a difference because the county has their employees' health clinic that John McNeil oversees, that my Diana Galvan that I've known forever, is I guess a PA there. When you start going through for the same $500,000 that we put aside for these businesses or less, we could hire another PA, a receptionist, and a couple of nurses, and we could provide that same free, no charge health clinic to all of our LEOs and first responders and all city employees. Can we do that?
No. Here's where your argument is flawed.
Okay.
Because there's a difference between funds that we use one time and recurring costs, right? And so when you're talking about an employee health clinic or personnel, that's a cost that we have to incur every single year.
But aren't we $1 million upside down in our self-funded program now?
Correct, but that's different. I'll get to that.
Okay.
So your initial thought about just the usage of funds, and so thank you for asking the question because it gives me an opportunity to, I guess, clarify and hopefully educate.
It's like talking to Dennis Patillo. I know I'm wrong. I just wanted to tell me why I'm wrong. It's just like talking to Dennis Patillo. You take all the time you want.
Yeah. In any case, there's just a difference between one-time funds and recurring funds, right? And so we're very careful of that because, we're careful of that in our personal life, right? I mean, if you got a one-time bonus at the end of the year, you're not going to go buy a car with it, right? And have a monthly payment because your
money runs up.
Your recurring revenue didn't go up, right?
Right.
And so for us, the specific pot of money that we were utilizing a portion of it ended up going for the small business program was from a one-time pot. And so any conversation about utilizing that for recurring expenses was just not feasible.
So if you don't use it for recurring.
Going back to the health insurance point,
yes.
is historically speaking, the city's approach to funding the plan had been when there are one-time funds available, right? There were certain aspects of the health fund that we can't control, right? We can't control the fact that prescription medication has gone up, that the cost of healthcare has gone up, right? But if we know that every year our healthcare expenditures are going to be X, then it's not a one-time thing, right? It's a recurring thing,
right?
And so the conversation that we're trying to have now is we need to shift away from this idea that anytime we come across a pot of money that's one time, that we just throw money at the health insurance fund, that's the way to fix it. It's not.
Yeah.
The way to fix it is increasing our recurring allocation to the fund, because that's how you create a financially sustainable fund, right? And so while, yes, you can always, quote unquote, throw money at it, that's not the real solution that'll solve the health insurance fund. It's just that we just need a recurring funds allocate more towards it.
I agree with that. Totally understand what you're saying. And I find myself saying that if 70% of our city employees' health issues involve, for not trying to be sexist, but mama taking the baby to the doctor for an earache and some amoxicillin, why can't we, instead of having Blue Cross or whatever we have, or a self-funded fund or whatever, why can't we just make a financial commitment to that my guesstimate, John McNeil's guesstimate, was under $400,000 a year. Buy the catastrophic stuff. You know, if it's not work comp and somebody has cancer, we got to take care of that. But why can't we just let the day-to-day, because JJ Craig told me point blank, we lose employees to benefits and other amenities that you know, why can't we just make that commitment as a community and say, okay, it's going to cost $350,000, $400,000 a year to pay for another PA. We don't have to pay rent. We already got a facility. We already got a director. We need a receptionist, 2 nurses, and a PA. And guess what, Officer Garza, when you're sick or when you're working and your wife says, honey, the baby's sick, don't worry about it. Go see Dr. McNeil. Right. I love that amenity for all of our city employees. And for $300,000 a year, I mean, I think it's a recurring
thing. That's
thing.
an accurate figure. You know,
I just made it up. I did.
Yeah,
I just made
that's what you do.
$3 trillion.
But, you know, that's something that we're definitely looking into. You know, one of the changes that we did recently was we changed our benefits consultant. We had the same benefits consultant for almost 10 years. And so
Boone Chapman or something like that.
We now have a new consultant that's helping us look at, you know, just in general, who's a good TPA or third-party administrator.
Yes, sir.
You know, could we get a better deal if we did this or that? And so we're exploring all options, you know, or maybe it's exploring getting away from being self-insured and maybe joining a pool.
Right.
And so we're looking at all of those options. But at the end of the day, it still doesn't change the fact that we have increases in health.
Sure. Everybody does.
And that we just haven't properly funded, right? And so that's what my main concern is now.
You're gonna have to still got to fill that gap somewhere.
Right. That gap's not going to go away even if you do a clinic concept. Now,
I agree.
But we know that for a fact.
There's a little synergy there, though, if you could kind of, you know, well, we've already got a building, we've already got a director, we've already got, all we're going to do is add the personnel and the nominal cost.
Well, the other thing you need to take into account too is that, you know, once you go through that concept, you're in essence telling your employees, you know, where to go. And so part of the benefit of keeping a structure like we have now is that it allows us the ability to give that employee the opportunity to see the primary physician that they want.
Sure. No, I get that.
And so there's pros and cons to that. And so I think for now, our approach is seeing if we can make it work, you know, staying in the same sort of structure that we're in. Maybe it's a different TPA, maybe it's, you know, clearly adjusting the city's contribution, and see what we can tweak there. But we'll see.
You have a tremendous financial juggling act to do I mean, everything we've talked about today costs copious sums of money.
Right. And that's why education is important, right? Because at the end of the day, you know, we need to have conversations about our revenues, and that's why understanding values of property is important. Understanding sales tax, investing in economic development is important, you know, because clearly our community values trying to do as much as we can to keep the local property tax rate, right? And that's fine, right? That's perfect. But if we're going to then be dependent on sales tax revenue to take us to the promised land, well, are we investing enough to actually increase that sales tax, right? Are we shooting ourselves in both feet?
And this is probably another conversation because obviously our sales tax is going to take a huge hit with the COVID situation and such going forward. But
you know, those are all things that hopefully through education people recognize that, you know, I typically explain it that, you know, people's expectations of what they want from the city, or even employees' expectations of what they want from the city is here, but our funding is here and our structure is here.
And our hatred for taxes is above all of that.
And so for now, I'm trying to at least focus on bridging the gap between our funding and our structure, so that at least with the resources that we have allocated towards our structure now, we can get better bang for our buck. And then
you've enlightened me on something, because I have to be honest. I mean, I think of myself as being fiscally, it's champagne taste on a beer budget. I'm fiscally conservative, but I'm always satisfied with the best. And even I would have a very difficult time pulling the lever that says, yeah, let's spend $1 million at the duck pond right now. I couldn't do it. And there's no reason to do it halfway. You might as well wait so you have to almost find a way that we have to find a way to raise some funds associated with the park and designate them to the park. Or you have to wait, because I don't think it would be responsible when some of our streets are in bad repair, no matter how that's from a different budget. What I think the best thing we could do to you is free up your ability to move stuff inter budget.
Well, there's a lot of creative things we could do to kind of leverage different resources that we quite frankly just don't do, and that we're slowly, hopefully with time, we can get to the level of creativity that other cities.
So there's no quick fixes.
No, it's a marathon.
And there's no free fixes, folks. I mean, it doesn't mean you have to raise taxes. It just means you have to figure out where you want your priorities to be. tell you this, it's after the top of the hour. We kept you longer than we promised, and we always say this, we're very blessed in Victoria to have Judge Zeller's a regular. Michael Cloud comes on all the time. Sheriff Louderback comes over. Chief Boyd's been here. Mayor Polasic was here. Thank you very much for taking time out of your day and for sharing your message. It is enlightening. It does give people an opportunity to have a little empathy for the state of the city, if you will. Can we count on you to come back to where we can have these conversations on a little more, not weekly, but an ongoing deal where you can say, hey, here's what's going on in Victoria? Because getting that message out.
My second anniversary.
Wow. He's optimistic, isn't he?
That's right.
Well, no, Adam,
Optimistic that he'll be here or will be here.
right,
I'm not
I
sure
don't
which.
know. He could have said, I'll see you after my third anniversary. But that was the NFL, which means not for long if you don't do better than that. No, I think you're doing a great job. We love your energy level. We're excited about your young family. And we just assume, how are you overall? Are you getting settled and you feel, I know you've.
It's coming along.
Okay.
It's coming along.
You didn't do any unpacking, did you?
He's still living out of a suitcase.
We recently moved into a house last month. So
Okay.
it was in the middle of all this COVID stuff. And so
She's gonna get it. She's gonna get the house.
Yeah.
I don't know if it means anything.
You're projecting again.
No, she's gonna get the house. The reality is he still gets all of his shirts folded at the cleaners. I don't know if that means he's not counting on hanging them up very long, but he's doing a great job, folks, and we're excited to have Jesus Garza with us. So
Come on back anytime.
Please
A
do.
lot of conversation that this could go on and on.
hang around for a minute. We'll get some autographs after the show. We're gonna get out of here. Stay close. Ralph Salazar and Brother Gary Moses are coming in, and thank you, YouTubers. Please